So the last couple videos, the first two truths of the existence of suffering. So now this is the third truth of the existence of suffering, which is conditionality. Now this is a little more involved, but I'm going to try to keep it really short and sweet in this one, because I've talked about these issues before, these experiences before. Everything is based on conditions, meaning that everything that's based on conditions is temporary. So when we talk about conditionality, we talk about the illusion of life and the delusion of self. Primarily, or particularly, the issue of self. So we identify with our conditions, and from that identification, we create a construct of self, an understanding of the self. And it's not that the self doesn't exist, and it's not that the conditions aren't real and shouldn't be dealt with. It just means that we kind of misunderstand the self. The self, rather than being the conditions in any permanent fixed way, is something greater and more spacious than that. The self is something that experiences conditions, that lets conditions come and go, and understands that, we need to understand that the self, there's nothing fixed and permanent about it. It's an ebbing and flowing process. So the problem is we get attached to conditions, we get attached to how we identify with the conditions, and we attach to the construct of self, and we define ourselves with this identification through labels and through the temporary conditions. And we get stuck because we take things that are temporary and try to make them fixed and permanent. And this is what causes us suffering, because we have this fixed and permanent idea of a self, and we try to hold on to that and maintain it and sustain it, and it can't, because the conditions change. And this is what causes us extreme suffering. And the irony here is we come to practice looking to be liberated, looking to transform, but how can we liberate and transform what we believe to be permanent and fixed? We can't. So the true transformation and liberation that we're looking for actually comes from simply letting go of identification with temporary conditions. Simple, but of course, not easy. So suffering begins when we attach to a fixed idea of permanent self, its pursuit of pleasure and its aversion to pain, and suffering ends when we break this attachment. Now, this is not detachment, and it's not indifference. It's a state of non-attached awareness where we can be with our present moment experience without trying to prematurely end it or abnormally prolong it, which would be pursuing and avoiding, clinging, craving, avoiding, until things pass. So we let things come and go, we engage them, we deal with them while they're present, and we don't avoid them, and we don't cling or pursue them. And this is the liberation and transformation we're seeking, is not to get caught in the attachment to the illusion, and the illusion being that things that we perceive are real in any fixed, permanent, inherent way. We recognize their temporality through conditionality, and that the self, there's nothing permanent and fixed about us, and we realize that we too are temporary in our existence and in our moment-to-moment experience, and that we can't be identified, and that anything we're experiencing is not inherent in us. It is something that will change based on conditions changing. So I tried to keep this really short and sweet. Have a great maggot-free day above the dirt. Jersey Lake at the Jersey Shore. Peace out.